The Kremlin has responded cautiously to the United States moving 2 nuclear submarines closer to Russian waters. The Kremlin says everyone should be, quote, very careful with nuclear rhetoric and that Moscow does not want to escalate tensions with Washington. U.S. President Donald Trump ordered the submarine redeployment last Friday in response to what he called highly provocative statements by the former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. He recently raised the possibility of a war between Russia and the U.S. in his online posts. All right, more on this now from DW's former Moscow bureau chief Yuri Resheto. He joins me from Riga. DW, as you may recall, is banned from reporting in Russia. Yuri, good to see you. Is this the Kremlin's attempt to put out a fire that former President Medvedev started?
I think so, Brent. This is certainly an attempt to downplay the issue because former President Medvedev is just that, the former president. And Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov is absolutely right when he says that Russia's foreign policy is shaped and controlled by the current head of state, who is Putin, not Medvedev. Especially since Medvedev has long been known for his, let's say, harsh rhetoric and has repeatedly threatened to use nuclear weapons in the past. The U.S. president's advisors should be aware of this. So the question is that should be asked, I think, in Washington is why the U.S. president has decided to get involved in this seemingly pointless dispute at this particular moment. And the answer could be that his ultimatum to Putin to end the war in Ukraine is now running, however illusory this ultimatum may be, but it's running.
Yeah, this could be a critical week for the war in Ukraine with President Trump's peace deadline. On Friday, this coming Friday, his special envoy Steve Witkoff is visiting Moscow. Do you expect any significant developments?
Well, I can imagine that Special Envoy Witkoff should he actually arrive in Moscow on Wednesday or Thursday, we don't know exactly if and when, but if he will be there, maybe he could reach some kind of minimal agreement with the Russians, some concessions or apparent concession, if you will, on the part of the Kremlin to Trump. Because 3 things are clear to me, Brent. This war will not end within the few remaining days, as Trump would like. Secondly, no one wants to upset Trump, not even the Russians, but no one takes his threats, I think, as seriously as they did 6 months ago. So, thirdly, the trade penalties threatened by Trump, which is tariffs, will hardly damage the Russian economy because the Russians hardly trade with Americans anymore. But yes, the Russians will probably pull something out of their diplomatic hat, so to say, that will appease Trump for the moment, but nothing serious more.
All right, well, considering what you're saying there, let me ask you, how prepared is Russia then for possible punitive measures from the United States if that deadline comes and goes without any progress?
Well, look, as I said, Russia does little business with the US. In this respect, tariffs are unlikely to have much effect. Another issue, of course, is when third countries are punished for doing business with Russia that is prohibited from the Western point of view, thereby circumventing Western sanctions. Above all, India and China, which buy oil and gas in huge quantities and thereby fill Russia's war chest. We are talking about the so-called secondary sanctions. But I believe that neither India nor China will bow to the US dictates. India has already said it'll keep buying Russian oil, and anyway, who's gonna check that? And can Donald Trump, can America afford more tariffs increases? Because in the end, it'll probably be US consumers who'll have to pay more as well as Indian or Chinese producers. So many questions are remaining. Therefore, I don't expect any essential concessions from Moscow.
Okay, Yuri, as always, thank you.